Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Stacey M Show. I thought today I would talk about my recent trip to America. I've had some people reach out, I suppose, and wondering what I was doing over there, which is perfectly fine. It's no secret at all. But so I just came back from America. What's today? Today's Wednesday, so I came back on Monday, so 2 days ago, and it was for a business retreat, I suppose you could call it, through one of my mentors, Tina Tower, who I've used for nearly 2 years, so like 2 years in March. Next year, I would have been part of her little posse, and it was really good. It was only a week. It was a fast week. It was a busy week. I feel like I need a break to recover from the break because it was business. There was a little bit of pleasure in there as well, but it was mainly business. And that was the whole point of going on the retreat. And I couldn't really bump either side of the trip out either. So I did only go for the week. So it was, it was really, really good. So, I suppose, so people say I travel like all the time. Stacey, you're so privileged, like you're always on a plane. Kind of yes and kind of not. So that's my first trip overseas since March last year, which I went to the States as well. And I'm in Brisbane a fair bit because that's where my second legal practice is. So, jump on a plane for an hour. It's half a movie. Like I literally cannot get through a full movie. And no sooner I'm putting my tray tables down, I'm putting my tray table back up. So I do go to Brisbane a fair bit because that's where one of my business is. But overseas, that's my first overseas trip since March last year. And before that, it would have been probably 4 or 5 years before that, I think. So I don't necessarily go overseas a lot, but I do go to Brisbane fairly frequently, probably like every quarter or something. So I'm very grateful that I can do that. I have an amazing team that holds the fort while I go gallivanting, and it's all still business. There is a little bit of pleasure in there, but usually it's it's for business purposes. So the team I have at both Aqua and Confetti are amazing, and obviously my Queensland team at All Star are really amazing as well. So, but I definitely don't take it for granted that I do jump on a plane a little bit. But so I went to the States for Tina's retreat. So there was a couple of us Aussies and an Aussie that's now living in Mexico. So it was a nice, small, intimate group, which is really good. I guess the reason I went because there was going to be a big gap until the next function or the next retreat conference that I would have had it. And I was starting to, coming to end of year, it's super busy, and I was starting to kind of dip in motivation. I was overwhelming myself. I was just coming to that time of year where I needed to surround myself with some other people in business. So that was one of the reasons that I went. I also had not been to Palm Springs before, so I wanted to tick that off my list and see whether it's a place I would go back to and take my girls to, which I would. Yeah, I quite liked it. It was quite, the weather was beautiful during the day. We went in, must have been fall, heading into winter, maybe fall. So the days were lovely. The mornings and the nights were a little bit chilly. No rain. It was just lovely. So really lovely weather. I did have issues going to America last year in March. So part of me wanted to not let that stop me going overseas again, in particular to America. So I felt like I needed to just kind of rip that Band-Aid and get back on the plane. So I travelled on my own for the first time overseas, domestically, I think that's a word. Within Australia, I'm fine to travel on my own. Brisbane Airport, I've absolutely nailed. I don't think there's a part of that airport that I haven't been in, at least for the domestic terminal. But it was the first time I flew overseas on my own. So that was a pretty big step for me as well that I'm pretty proud of. But yeah, last year when I went to finish off my training under Marissa Pierre, I went with some friends, Kel and her mum, Leslie, and I had all sorts of issues. So not to mention the flight. So the flight itself was okay, but it was recommended to us that we went via Auckland. So we had to go from Sydney to Auckland, Auckland to LA. I would never do that ever again. I flew direct this time and it was so much better for me. It may suit some people to go via Fiji, via Auckland. For me, it was much better going direct. So our trains at time were probably like 24 hours, 3 hours at the airport. I'm actually a little bit early because we couldn't check in. So I think we had to wait like an hour before we could even check in. And then it was getting, through checking in bags, going through security, going on the other side, still hanging there for like 3 hours, jumping on the plane for like 2 hours, going to Auckland. I think we arrived like in the middle of the night. Nothing was opened. Wait however long we did. Like it was just super long. And last year when I got to LAX, I had issues at customs. So the guy did not like me for whatever reason. And so I had some issues there that were finally worked out. And then I got to collect my bag and it wasn't there. So so it was delayed, it was delayed, and then it went to loss. I had no idea where it was. Anyway, a week later, I finally got it. So like I stayed in LA for 2 weeks last March. So didn't have it for a week, had to borrow clothes from people before I could go shopping, insurance claims. I can probably do another podcast on that. But yeah, so I got it for the last week. So I pack very differently now, and I travel with AirTags, but it was a pretty crappy experience, and I didn't want that experience to stop me from jumping on a plane again. So for me, going there also was ripping the Band-Aid off, and it's like, right, surely this isn't going to happen to me again. I packed differently now, so my suitcases actually didn't leave Sydney. So like the 10th people to check in, it was priority checking. My suitcase didn't leave Sydney, and it wasn't even my name on my suitcase because we checked in together. It was Leslie's name on my suitcase, so that caused issues as well. But yeah, it turned out it was still in Sydney. How many thousands of miles away that was. So so very happy didn't let it get to me. I was quite proud of myself, one, traveling on my own, and then two, just traveling again and, hoping that everything was going to be okay. I would be lying if I didn't say so there was no internet on the plane, but as soon as I got off and my phone was like readjusted to AT&T in the States, I did check to make sure my luggage was there, and it was. So it's usually the first thing I do. Domestic, I'm not too worried about, but overseas, I was definitely checking on it. So, that's another reason I went to America. The networking opportunities as well. So for those that follow along, I have 2 legal practices. I have a mortgage broking business. I've got a personal brand, and I'm not intending on doing anything else because that is more than enough. But because the businesses are so varied, it's really good to surround myself with people that have other businesses as well. So I was there with Nat, who runs my Facebook ads. She's like a meta amazing queen. So I was there with Nat. I was there with Vic, who is amazing with family daycares and has really great education in relation to that. There was myself, there was Tina, and there was Mel as well, who is an Australian, but she now lives in Mexico, and she does health retreats. So surrounding myself with people that I hadn't really, I knew them and I'd met them before, but it was a great opportunity to get to know them even more. And I definitely feel like that week we got super, super close with everybody, which was just amazing. And we'd met other people over in America as well. So had I not done that, I wouldn't have the friendships that I have now, or the connections that I also made when I went to America. So, you definitely don't have to leave the country to do that. But yeah, so one of the reasons was just the networking opportunities that it created for me. sorry, kind of getting out of that environment as well. I felt going to America was different than driving, 2 hours down the road or like an hour flight to Brisbane or something. It was, I knew I was going to get more out of it because I was more invested, I suppose, with the time, the funds to go over there. So that was another reason as well. I just knew that time was going to be quality. And that was what I needed because I was just starting to slump. And whether you're a business owner or just in everyday life, you can hit that slump. And for me, I knew that I had to do something. And because most of my events are planned reasonably far in advance, there was a really big gap between this event and the last one I was at, which I can't even tell you when that was. I think it was like April. So for me, that was like a big gap of not being around other business owners so I can get ideas and just have that break and kind of, vent how stressful it can be to be a business owner when you keep starting businesses like me. It's just good to speak to somebody else that's in that situation because I don't necessarily really have anybody close where I live to do that. So obviously there's a phone and, Zoom and all that, face-to-face, it can be a little bit more different. So that was another reason. It was just, changing that environment because I knew it was just going to be more beneficial for me. What else was there? So I do have my notes here. That's why I'm looking off to the side if you're watching the video. The kind of like the blend of ideas and trends with America as well. So we did meet other people in America who were also business owners. So kind of like getting their perspective and connecting with them and just really interacting with people in general, I found really assisted us as well. It can be seen that Americans are really rude and they were actually really quite lovely in Palm Springs. LA was a bit hit and miss, mainly because I probably had the shits for the 2 weeks because of the issues I had with customs and my suitcases, and the weather was really shitty as well. But just, if you're walking down the street, interacting with people, everyone was just like super friendly, crossing the road, like having a moment as to like which way to look because they're driving opposite side of the road, or the cars will stop and let us cross. I don't know whether we look like real tourists or not. I had like a really nice bag with a quote on it. Can't quite remember. I think it was something like "We are our own kind of wonderful" or something. And people coming up to me like complimenting me on my bag. It was like, how saying, how sweet it was and everything. So that was really nice. And just interactions we had like in the restaurants and, the night stores that we went to in the shops and everything like that. So that sort of stuff I do take away because my business is obviously service-based. So it's kind of picking up ideas based on another culture, I suppose. So we're predominantly Australian market, but it's, just to get a different perspective, I suppose, definitely from my business perspective as well. I suppose for me, it was a bit of a personal journey as well, which I'd already touched on. So it was my first trip overseas on my own. Can't say I was nervous. I couldn't have really stuffed up getting to Sydney and getting on the flight and then getting off the flight. Like there wasn't much that I could have done wrong there. It wasn't like I was going to end up on the wrong flight or anything like that, but it was still a big step for me, I suppose, to travel, 14-hour flight and, the few hours between. So for that, it was a personal journey and going, ripping that Band-Aid off and not letting my experience from last March interfere any travel that I have, and particularly going back to America, to LAX. So I felt that was really nice for me, I suppose, knowing that, I can travel on my own and, I'm not going to let one negative experience in my life affect me for anything else. So I suppose the adventure of it. So there are a few things that we did do there. So I don't think we saw all of Palm Springs. It's actually quite large. And obviously it was still working. So then in time we went out at night was like to grab dinner or something like that. So the days were jam-packed with planning for 2025, I suppose, and getting questions answered on things that we were stuck on or not sure on and things like that. So didn't do a lot of sightseeing, but I definitely did have some experiences over there that I would not have had in Australia at all. So granted, there's a lot of Australia I haven't seen either, but, I got to go to the Joshua Trees, which is a really sacred space, and that was like my non-negotiable. I couldn't go to Palm Springs without going to Joshua Trees, and I only got about 10 miles in. It's quite large. Got told to go to Pappy's. I didn't make it to Pappy's, which is a bar there. But what I experienced, it was magical, and it was on dusk as well. So I think it was around like 4 or something. The sun goes down reasonably early there. I'm assuming because it's fall or winter. But so when we got there, the kind of sun was out, and then like within 10 minutes, like it had started to go down. So that was a really magical time to go. The experience of getting there as well. It was about an hour drive from Palm Springs. We had a convertible, so we went all Thelma and Louise, like literally, without the driving at the cliff part, I suppose. But yeah, so our hire car was convertible. The 4 of us were crammed in it. We all started to get hungry, and we pulled up at this biker bar. We were a little bit not sure what's going. Vic was like full steam ahead, and the food was amazing. The people were amazing. Without Vic having the confidence for us to go to that biker bar, I don't think any of us would have done it if she wasn't there. But that was an amazing experience as well. And it was a little bit like, okay, so we just judged this place. The people inside are actually really nice. And the food was really good as well. Like, it served its purpose. So, probably taught not to be so judgmental about what's on the outside, because everybody on the inside was lovely. Told us kind of what entrance to go in, what to do there. And so that was really nice as well. What else did I have? So, I mentioned Joshua Tree, how spiritual it was, and Palm Springs, when I actually Googled it. So I didn't know, I knew it, but I didn't know it, I suppose, as to what it's known for. And it's actually known for clarity, renewal, and inspiration, which I thought was really good, because we're actually there for a retreat. And that's definitely what we got by the end of the retreat. So I definitely got clear, I suppose, to an extent. I'll have to, work on some things now that I'm back, but getting clear on an attack for 2025 for next year's planning and for the businesses, both from a business level and a personal perspective as well, and inspiration. So we were all absolutely drained, but we're at the airport and we're talking about what we're going to do. We kind of came home at all similar times, and then we were straight on to doing things that we were going to do. So definitely have that inspiration to, I suppose, make next year better than it was this year. This year was really good. So I think every year that I've been in business, it has gone up, and that's coming from experience. It's coming from being in business for longer, I suppose, and the quality of my connections as well. So so that was really cool. I got to attend an ice hockey game. So I hadn't seen an ice hockey game. I went to a NBA game, so I go for the Lakers. So I saw the Lakers last year, which was just amazing. I unfortunately did not get the chance to do it this time around, but I did go to an ice hockey game. It was Ontario Reign, I think it was, and the Firebirds, Palm Springs Firebirds. So that was really cool. We had first row seats. So that was really good to experience that. I'd definitely go back to a game again and take my girls. We're in the area of the Mighty Ducks. So I did think that we were hoping we were going to go see the Ducks, but that didn't happen. But it was still a really good game to experience. And something else I got to experience, which I was never on my to-do list. And to start with, I was literally going for like one song, but I saw Mrs. Christmas, or Ms. Christmas herself, Mariah Carey, in concert. I said she's, apart from a couple of Christmas songs, she's not quite who I listen to in music. I was pretty well only going for All I Want for Christmas, and I'm not lying when I say that. I was literally going for one song, and if she didn't sing it, I was going to be like super pissed. I actually belted out to the majority of her songs that she played. I actually knew more than what I thought I did. And she had a couple of like classics in there as well that weren't Christmas related. So to see Mariah Carey in concert and to be surrounded by people at the concert as well, and to see everybody's faces and just everybody dressed up. So Palm Springs is known to have a lot of gay couples in there, and then to see them like teased up, dressed to the nines, it was absolutely beautiful. Even like there were like young girls like dressed all Christmassy. There were like adults dressed as like Mrs. Claus. It was just absolutely amazing. And everybody, we had no drama. Everybody was like so friendly. There was a drunk person in front of us, but you're going to get one of them anywhere you go. But it was just really nice to attend a concert in America. I actually think it was more tame. I mean, it was Mariah, but yeah, I guess I don't know whether I was necessarily expecting any show at a Mariah Carey concert, but yeah, I suppose everybody was just like, you know, so into it and like belting out all these Christmas tunes. It was honestly, it was just so amazing. So I probably won't see her again. If you have the opportunity to see her at Christmas time, I would highly recommend it. The show was just like, it was top notch. So she's obviously, you know, perfected her Christmas concert, but it was amazing. And I told my girls, I didn't tell anybody I was actually going. I've had the tickets for a while, and I sent it to my girls, and they yelled at me for going. They weren't, they were happy I went, but they're obviously like, oh, you know, damn, like, you know, you could have taken us, which I couldn't have. But yeah, so they were experiences that I wouldn't have otherwise had not have gone either. So and it's really just ticking off another place to my list, which I think I spoke about also before. And, you know, I also got a chance to catch up with some people that I knew that lived there as well. So that was really amazing. So clearly I wouldn't have been able to have that opportunity had I have not gone. And it was just, it was knowing that, I suppose the main thing was just knowing that, you know, I'm not going to let that experience that I had last year with the States affect my travel again, and it didn't. So they were pretty well the reasons why I went to America. I'm not planning on another American trip anytime soon, I don't think, but there's a Brisbane one coming up, but not an American one. So look, it's something I'd definitely like to try to do yearly. Just for those reasons that I've already had mentioned. It definitely is, you wouldn't think there's such a difference between us and here, and there is, and I'm not talking in relation to the politics side or like the tipping side or, you know, anything like that. Just, you know, there are cultural things over there that we don't have over here, and vice versa, and to immerse yourself in that is an opportunity that I definitely do not take for granted. And there are things that I do take away a lot of the times, like I'll write on the note section of my phone just something that's popped in my head or something that I've seen or idea or something like that. So one day I might get there for a holiday and I'm not working, but it's not too often I do that either. But so hopefully that kind of answers the questions that I was getting about why I went to America. I Yeah, so I do travel a little bit, but mainly it's to Brisbane. So I was a bit surprised when I got that, oh, you're always on a plane. I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm like, oh, hang on. I'm on a plane to Brisbane all the time, but I'm on a plane overseas. And I definitely don't take it for granted, the opportunity that I get to travel, both overseas and in Australia as well. I said it would be nice to do it on a holiday instead of, for business purposes, because you need a break every now and then. But overall, Palm Springs was lovely. I would definitely go back there because there were so many things that I did not see, and I think that would be really good to see. So if you're looking at going to Palm Springs, I would definitely recommend it. There's a lot of great food places. There is a yacht club in the middle of the desert, believe it or not. I went there. It's quite nice, but yes, it's Palm Springs Yacht Club, which makes no sense. But there is a yacht club in Palm Springs. But yeah, it was lovely. It was clean. People were lovely. And it's it's a beautiful spot. So I don't know whether I'd like to be there in summer. I think it would be quite warm. So this time of year, I think it's like fall going into winter. Perhaps, I'm not quite sure. There was snow kind of, I don't know what part of Palm Springs, but like where all the windmills are, the solar windmills, or can't be solar windmills, wherever the windmills are. There's like a whole windmill farm there. I was kind of around there, so there was a bit of snow, similar like it snowed on the Hollywood sign when I was in LA last year as well. But this time of year I did find really lovely, and I would definitely go back, and I would definitely recommend it if anyone is looking at going to Palm Springs. So I think that's all I got for today. If you have any questions about Palm Springs or what I did, just reach out. And thanks for listening, and I will catch you next time.